So usually when the Super Bowl ends, I'd like to say, you know what? It is draft season in the NBA. So we are all in on college basketball right now. And unlike the 2024 draft, this year's draft is loaded with college talent. And ESPN's main draft analyst, Jonathan Givony, just dropped their newest mock draft for the 2025 draft. And I wanted to react to it. So what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? We are going to be just reacting to this ESPN mock. It's an ESPN Plus article, so if you don't have ESPN Plus, I got you for today, and I will leave a link to this article in the description below. I just recently dropped my post-lottery mock draft, so thank you guys that checked that out. That was really fun to do, and I do enjoy looking at what ESPN has to come up with because these are some of the more respected analysts in the NBA draft industry. So without further ado, let's just get right into this. To no surprise, we have Cooper Flagg going #1 overall. Cooper Flagg has been on an absolute tear since conference play started in the ACC, and he is going to, I think, have a better chance at going #1 overall than any other pick in this draft. I would probably put it at like a 95% chance, maybe even 99% chance. Cooper Flagg is going to go #1. A blend of offense and defense, ball handling, shooting. He could really do it all. Is he going to be somebody like Victor Wembanyama out of the gate that is going to average 20 plus points a night? Probably not. I think he's going to be more in line with the Cade Cunningham #1 picks of the world or the Anthony Edwards #1 picks, and that is just fine. And Washington right now is historically bad. I would say after the deadline, maybe they got a little bit better adding Marcus Smart and Chris Middleton, but either way, they're probably going to finish with the fewest amount of wins in the NBA. And having Alex Sarr and Cooper Flagg in that front court, I think would be so much fun to watch defensively for the next 10 plus years. Cooper Flagg really benefits playing with this lanky rim protector at Duke right now, and Maluach. He can get that in Alex Sarr over in the NBA side of things, and they can really complement each other well with a blend of quickness, speed, shot blocking ability, the ability to get into passing lanes. And I'd like to see Washington, who's the worst defensive team in the league right now, get even better defensively next year. You had maybe a year 3 Bilal Coulibaly leap, year 2 for George and Bub Carrington, and this team could really get going. They also got another first round pick from the Memphis Grizzlies to take on Marcus Smart's money, so we can maybe see 2 first-round picks. Can we get Cooper Flagg in the nation's capital? I think they could use it. I think they can use it for sure. They got the #1 pick in the 2010 draft in John Wall. I think this would be basically John Wall 2.0 for them. So at #2, we have Dylan Harper going to the New Orleans Pelicans. I mean, I thought this team could stay somewhat competitive throughout the rest of the year. Maybe they're going to lose out on a top pick seeding wise. Nope, that's not the case because DeJounte Murray is out for the year with the torn Achilles. They traded away Brandon Ingram to Toronto. Herb Jones is also out for the year. So the only enjoyment I'm going to get from watching Pelicans basketball for the rest of the year is whenever Trey Murphy and Zion Williamson are both playing. That's really all I have to look forward to for this team, and they get Dylan Harper here at #2. I think an interesting fit on paper, but really could work out well because I think him and DeJounte Murray could complement each other because Harper can excel with the ball. He can excel without the ball. He has one of the best ball handling abilities in this class. He can finish at the rim. He can blow by defenders, but can also use his acceleration and deceleration to really get the best shots within the half court and off the dribble. He can attack closeouts, and I think he is the second best player in this draft. You may say that VJ Edgecombe would be a better fit for this team just because I think you can plug and play VJ Edgecombe in almost any version of a starting 5 in New Orleans. But Dylan Harper could truly be one of the best scoring guards in the NBA one day, and we're seeing that on display right now at Rutgers, and him and Zion Williamson could have a fun 2-man game going forward. And I think we would maybe get to a roadblock between him and DeJounte Murray. What's their ceiling as a duo? Can they both be positive enough shooters? Because they definitely have their question marks with a consistent shot. But either way, we get Dylan Harper in New Orleans. You take the best player available, and this year is basically like a retool year. You got Bruce Brown, Olynyk, and a first for Ingram, allows you to have more depth, and then you get the second best guy in this class. If the Pelicans win the lottery and this team adds Cooper Flagg, then I think things get really interesting going forward with or without Zion Williamson. At #3, we're going to have the Utah Jazz select Ace Bailey. I mean, this team could use some shooting. This team could use some scoring, and they're getting one of the best pure scorers in this draft in Ace Bailey, who I think is still one of the more polarizing players we have seen in quite some time. He's got a 6'10 frame, 6'9 frame, incredibly skinny right now, but can knock down insanely difficult shots. And for somebody that's 6'10, that helps him out a ton and gives him an advantage to be able to shoot over threes, 4s and 5s at the college level. It's going to be the same thing at the NBA level. I worry about his ability to just not get to the rim with ease, and he kind of slows down, takes more difficult shots, which is going to be, I think, a problem at the NBA level. I think him going to Utah would be fine for his development out of the spotlight with a good player developmental staff in Utah and a good young head coach in Will Hardy. I think Utah would be in play for a bunch of players at 3. I think this could be VJ Edgecombe. I think this could be Kasparas as well if they want to get more of a true point guard. But Isaiah Collier's been playing good as of late. This team does need some scoring, especially if they maybe get worse this offseason by trading away some of their scoring veterans on their team. And I also think Bailey benefits being on a team that isn't trying to be good next year. Like, I don't really like Ace Bailey in New Orleans whatsoever. I wouldn't like Ace Bailey. I mean, in Philadelphia would be good for Philly, but I think he's going to be asked to do a ton right away, and I think he needs time to really hammer in his shot diet and come up with kind of a better idea on what he's going to be at the NBA level as a pure scorer. So at number 4, Charlotte gets VJ Edgecombe. I love this so much. I love VJ Edgecombe in Charlotte. If they can't get a Cooper Flagg, I think Edgecombe is a better fit for this team than Ace Bailey. And I do have Edgecombe higher up on my big board by 1 spot than Ace Bailey. And Edgecombe in between Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball is perfect because Edgecombe can defend, he could shoot, he can run in transition, knows when to make the extra pass, he can blow by defenders with his athleticism, just run in transitions very well, and I think Charlotte needs that. They need somebody that's going to crash the glass, that can make the extra pass, that can run in transition, and that could also give you explosiveness on the defensive end of the floor, and that could just make big defensive plays, that could hop into the passing lane, you're off and running, and he's going to have this transition dunk, and he's going to change the energy in the building. And his shot has been very consistent since Big 12 play started. I was a little concerned about it coming out of Lehigh. We saw him struggle with this 3-point shot at the start of this season for Baylor, but he's been great as of late. I think he flashes immense two-way upside, and I think that's exactly what Charlotte needs, because Charlotte needs that high-energy guy to connect Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball, and I would like to see that in VJ Edgecombe. So this is perfect for them. I actually hate the idea of Ace Bailey in Charlotte if that were to happen, so I'm really scared that that's going to happen. I don't know if Yakuchonis would make a lot of sense either for this team, so I do wonder where Charlotte could be. Could they be a team that just trades down? We're seeing maybe Jeff Peterson operate that way as the main decision maker in Charlotte. At number 5, Kasparas going to the Raptors. See, I don't know if I love this fit for them right now, but I don't hate it. I think if they're okay developing Yakuchonis as their main ball handler, because I think he's going to excel best with the ball in his hands, and he's setting up for his teammates. And that's fine. If you don't think that maybe Emmanuel Quickley can be your long-term lead initiator, Yakuchonis could be that guy, but is Scotty Barnes still going to operate as a point forward at times? Brandon Ingram likes when the ball's in his hands, so I'm not sure if Yakuchonis would have his best chance to grow in Toronto. Now that they added Brandon Ingram, there's a lot of mouths to feed in Toronto. They're in a very expensive team with that 5 of Quickley, Pirtle, Ingram, RJ Barrett, and Scotty Barnes right now. So they kind of need to hit on their pick here. But Yakuchonis could be somebody that can get his teammates involved. He could run in transition very well. And I think he could be a good shooter at the NBA level. He's very fun to watch at Illinois. He's a very fun college player. And I think he's going to be NBA ready out of the gate. And I think him in Darko Rajakovic's offensive system could be utilized the best to his ability. But I just wonder about all the mouths to feed there in Toronto. At 6, Brooklyn gets Kon Knueppel. Now, Kon is number 7 on my big board, so I don't mind this. I think it's just the idea of Brooklyn having this rebuilding season. They trade away Mikal Bridges. They move off from Schroeder and Dorian Finney-Smith, and you end up with pick 6, and it's Kon Knueppel. I don't really think that was exciting going into this 2025 season for the Nets. Like, you were going to be so bad this year to end up with Kon Knueppel. I don't know how I feel about that. I think I'd rather go for Trey Johnson at 6, unless Trey Johnson reminds you too much of Cam Thomas, what you already have. But Kon is arguably the best shooter in this draft. I think he can play physical. I worry about his defense at times, especially when he's going to go to a great defensive environment in Duke, one of the best defensive teams in the country, to a horrible defensive team currently in the NBA. But they're going to have a ton of cap space. I think their roster could shuffle a little bit in the offseason, and you're really just drafting Kon to be this connecting piece for whoever your next star is going to be. And he's going to be someone that can be a spot-up shooter. He can put the ball on the ground, and I think he can also operate as a pick-and-roll ball handler as well. So, yeah, I think Kon is a fine player. It's just like, him going 6 to Brooklyn when they are going to have this just dreadful year, even though they've been exceeding expectations and Jordi Fernandez has done a fine job for this team and their development, I would have just liked somebody with higher upside as like a true number one. I don't think Trey Johnson is ever going to be like a number one on a good team one day, or Nolan Traore or Jeremiah Fears. I think I would just opt for one of those players at 6 instead of Kon Knueppel. At number 7, we have the Chicago Bulls getting Kon Maluach. I think this makes a ton of sense for them. Right now, their only center on their roster is, I guess, Nikola Vucevic, 2, and then it's Jalen Smith, but neither one of those guys is your future at the 5 spot. Kon allows you to have this developmental project for you guys going forward. They do not need a guard right now. They have too many guards on their roster. Unless they trade half of them in the offseason, I would like for them to snag a big man. There's a couple good ones that could be on the board here at 7. Either it's Derik Queen, Newell, or Kon Maluach. I'm okay with Newell or Kon, but I think for the Bulls specifically, I like Maluach for what he could be as a screen setter, as a rim protector, as a lob threat, a rim runner for this team going forward. And honestly, if you drafted Kon, I wouldn't mind bringing back Josh Giddey just to try to get like this good initiating point guard that could help out Kon's development going forward. But they got their first round pick back, so they don't have to worry about losing like the 11th overall pick if that were to happen. Next up at number 8, we have the Portland Trailblazers getting Egor Demin. I don't like this pick for them. I don't. I think he's someone that needs the ball in his hands. I worry about the shot, and I just don't think Portland is a good fit. I think Liam McNeeley would be a better fit. I think Asa Newell would be a big fit as well, because I think him and Klingon in the front court could be very appealing if you're going to bump Denny to the 3 and Sharp to the 2. I just don't think they need a Egor Demin, because now you're going to make Scoot Henderson play off ball eventually, and I don't really think that's a good idea. I think Scoot benefits with the ball in his hands. I think there could be like 4 or 5 guys that would make more sense for Egor Demin there at number 8 than Portland. Yeah, not really a fan of that. Jeremiah Fears going to the Spurs at 9. Now, pre-De'Aaron Fox trade, I would love this. I don't really get Jeremiah Fears at number 9 with Asa Newell on the board, who I think could be a great addition next to Wemby in that front court. But I think a more obvious pick here would be Liam McNeeley. Now, the fact that Trey Johnson is off the board, I kind of get what their vibe is on Trey Johnson. They don't really like him as a connecting piece, so I'm intrigued to see where they have Trey Johnson going. But Liam McNeeley would make so much sense around Wemby as somebody that could put the ball on the ground, that could also just be a phenomenal catch-and-shoot shooter, spot-up shooter for this team, because the Spurs need shooting. They're going to be a very bad shooting team on paper next year with Fox's inconsistencies, Sohan's, Castles. Like, these guys have their inconsistencies from behind the arc. And I think Jeremiah Fears does not solve that whatsoever. They do have 2 first-round picks, and maybe they end up with McNeeley, but I think he's just there for the taking at number 9. Why pass up on that? I just think McNeeley would make so much more sense for San Antonio than Fears. And if they were going to go somebody that could ball handle well, that could maybe set up the offense, which also I don't really get when you have Fox committed long-term money to, I would go Ben Saraf, just because he gives you a little bit more size and I think upside with his court vision. So at number 10, we have OKC getting Derik Queen. I don't know how I feel about Derik Queen as a top 10 pick right now, because I do think a lot of NBA like front office, you would have to like cater to his skill set, and I don't know if I get that. Now, I'm fine with OKC going big in this draft. Now, I think I'd rather them take a chance on like Thomas Sorber later in the first round, or Danny Wolf, because you're not going to eventually be able to re-sign Isaiah Hartenstein with the second apron and the rookie extensions looming for Chet and J-Dub. So I don't mind trying to go with center here at 10. They also went Topic like a guard last year. I just don't know if I love Queen in this version of the OKC offense. I don't think he's going to be a good enough rim protector or rebounder, and I do worry about his lateral quickness, how it's going to be at the NBA level, because he's someone that also relies on his post game. Are you going to give him a decent amount of post touches a night? I'm not too sure about that, but he's very skilled around the rim. He can finish inside. I just don't, like the fit to OKC, and I also think 10 is kind of high for Derik Queen. Maybe I'm lower on Derik Queen than the consensus, because I loved him coming into the season, and like after the first few weeks, I was like, wow, I was way too low on him in my preseason expectations, but I think maybe we're now getting too high on him, even though he has been a very productive college player, but I'm not sure that's going to translate to the NBA level. We have Houston getting Trey Johnson at 11. All right, well, that's a steal for Houston. That really is. They're getting one of the best shot makers in this draft, and I know Trey Johnson is dependent on the baseline jumper, and it's something like Ace Bailey's kind of dependent on at times as well, but Trey Johnson was an elite mid-range shooter, an elite shooter in high school, and he's been arguably an elite shooter at times this year for the Texas Longhorns, a bad team where he's asked to do so much. So much. I would have loved to see him in a better environment at the college level, but he has a great mid-range jumper, and I think at 11, is way too low for Trey Johnson right now. He's a better prospect than Derik Queen. Obviously, they play different positions, but I'd rather see Trey Johnson as a shooter, as a complementary shooter in San Antonio or in Brooklyn or even in Portland, maybe even Chicago. So I think there's a lot of other guys I would have behind Trey Johnson, and I think that's just a steal for Houston at 11. It's funny because I don't know if I love that fit for Trey, because you got Reed Shepherd, you got Cam Whitmore, guys that are going to demand the ball off the bench. You got Jalen Green obviously starting there, so there's not really a spot for Trey Johnson, but I think Johnson or McNeeley would make so much sense for Houston, or more so like McNeeley could make more sense, because they do need shooting. So you know what? Yeah, maybe Trey Johnson is that guy for them, because this team does struggle with its three-point shot currently. They are one of the worst three-point shooting playoff teams in the Western Conference right now. They have Joan Beringer going to the Spurs at number 12, who's currently playing in France. He plays with DJ Stewart over there as well, if you remember him. But wow, okay. Yeah, this is why ESPN either has some pull or they know something we don't know, because he is a rim runner, crazy athlete for somebody of his age, can finish inside, but I just think this is kind of one, high at 12, two, do I like the Spurs going with a backup center? Maybe it's the French connection with Wemby, but I just don't know how you can look at his archetype and what he is as a player, as a rim runner, can be a good rim protector, good athlete inside the paint, and say that's what the Spurs need with Liam McNeeley on the board. So I like Joan Beringer. Like, I'm learning more about him as a prospect and watching more of the film on him, but I just think as a top 12 prospect right now, way too high. Way too high. That is insane. That definitely caught me a little bit off guard. Liam McNeeley going to the Hawks at 13 is great value. I think Liam McNeeley is a top 10 player in this draft. He just had a monster 38-point performance against Creighton, a place where UConn never wins in, and they went out there and McNeeley had the best game of his freshman year at UConn, as he could finish inside. I think he's better defensively than people give him credit for, and he can really explode for these performances. And I think Atlanta getting this pick from Kevin Huerter is funny, because people could compare McNeeley to Huerter, but I think McNeeley's far better right now at UConn than Kevin Huerter was at Maryland. And I think McNeeley could be a compliment, like a great complementary shooter next to Trae Young. And I think sometimes you worry about Richardson or Daniels or even Jalen Johnson's three-point shot with its inconsistencies. And I think McNeeley can really give them some stability. So the fact that he fell to 13 is great value. Oh my God. Dallas just picking in the lottery is kind of crazy. Picking at 14, I mean, I guess that's where they are right now when they made this mock draft, and they just lost Anthony Davis for a little bit. They get Nolan Traore, the point guard out of France. I mean, we'll see if Nolan is going to be a lottery pick, because he has still struggled with his shot over at St. Quentin. We obviously haven't had a lot of like international players go in the lottery compared to the 24 draft, where we had so many international players in the lottery. And they get this point guard that's got good court vision, that can operate a half-court offense, but I think is going to struggle at finishing inside or attacking at the rim. There's definitely some other players I would like here at 14 in Dallas. I like Jason Richardson out of Michigan State, the son of Jason Richardson. I'd like Danny Wolf for this team as well if they were going to potentially trade like a Daniel Gafford this offseason. I like Rasheer Fleming for this offense as well, just a high energy guy that can run up and down the floor. So I just think there's some better fits than Traore there at 14 to the Dallas Mavericks. At number 15, we have the OKC Thunder going Hugo Gonzalez. So they snagged Derik Queen earlier. They get a wing here after snagging a big. So yeah, like I think at 15, like I'd rather have just gotten Liam McNeeley earlier or Trey Johnson or one of those guys. And then I could have taken Thomas Sorber or Danny Wolf or even an Alex Condon from Florida here at 15. Hugo, another player that has massive question marks with his shot, playing over in Spain currently, but I think if he's going to be consistent enough, like with his three-point shot, he can get into passing lanes well, and he could be a good off-ball defender. I think similar to maybe what Richardson was as a prospect, definitely less polished than what Richardson was coming over from France, but I think what Hugo can be is like an off-ball help defender, run in transition, and is able to hit a spot-up three or two every single night. So at 16, we have Minnesota snagging Danny Wolf out of Michigan. This pick is via Detroit. I think this would be very nice for Minnesota. I think a lot of people thought this Detroit pick was probably not going to go to any team. It's water protected. Hey, I mean, Detroit could still not make the playoffs and they get to keep their pick. Danny Wolf, though, going to Minnesota, can put the ball on the ground for somebody of his size, can shoot some threes. He did that last year at Yale. He's doing it this year at Michigan. Can play the 4, can play the 5, has great court vision as well. And I think if we could just cut down on just like plays too fast at times, turns the ball over a lot for a big man. Like, I get that. There's definitely negatives to Danny Wolf's game, especially what he could be as like a true rim protector, but he could be a great connecting piece in an offense. And I think what he's doing right now, playing with Vlad Golden over at Michigan, because Wolf could space the floor as a power forward, that's what he could do for Minnesota with Rudy Gobert. So I like that fit of Danny Wolf in Minnesota. We got Ben Saraf going to the Orlando Magic at 17. I would like for them to get a shooter in this draft. So I hope they get like Alex Karaban or Jace Richardson with the Denver Nuggets first they own, because Ben Saraf is a point, like they need a point guard, and I'm all for, I think, bumping Jalen Suggs back to the shooting guard position eventually, and you find your next point guard for your team. It's just a point guard that can't shoot in Ben Saraf right now that has some issues with his shot. I think they could come for sure, but it's just you're taking that risk and you're going to try to develop him. And maybe that's going to be Anthony Black's spot anyway next year, and Saraf can learn to develop off the bench. I just don't know if that's the best fit for Ben Saraf in the world. At number 18, we have Colin Murray-Boyles going to the Miami Heat from the Golden State Warriors, one of the better defenders in this draft. And I think could be that just stereotypical Heat culture guy, where I don't know if he's going to play with like that intensity, like just where his motor is going to show on display, but he plays very hard. He can guard multiple positions. He can score inside. And I think he's someone that's not going to lose you games by any means. He's going to take good shots. He's going to take the right shots, but he can also guard people on the perimeter. He can guard people inside. It's just like, he's a little bit undersized as a center. Is he going to be quick enough as a power forward? I think we just got to figure out what his role is at the NBA level. If he was just a few inches taller, he'd be, I think, a top 10 pick, where they have like Derik Queen. At number 19, we have Noah Essengue going to the Jazz, a project play out of Germany, playing at Ratio Farm, another French prospect, where he's got good size, good length, good versatility. I think another developmental project. Does Utah want to take a chance on that? They got Ace Bailey at 3, so maybe they take somebody with a little bit, I think, of Tijan Salon to his game. We'll see if he's going to be any bit of a three-point shooter at the NBA level, because his shot has struggled at Ratio Farm this year. Will Riley go to the Nets at 20? I like this. This is an upside play for the Nets at 20. A little bit of a safer prospect earlier in Kon Knueppel at 6. So you get Will Riley, who can finish at the rim. He's got good body control at the rim, finishing inside. He's got a good like ability to attack closeouts and beat defenders off that first step. Can run in transition well. It's just if his shot isn't falling, is he going to be a good enough defender? Because he could struggle with his defense at times. Can he look to make an extra pass? He does need to put on some weight, as he's very skinny. I think Riley could be somebody that stays another year at Illinois and stays another year and becomes a 2026 prospect. But if not, I like him going to the Nets here in the non-lottery part of this first round. Asa Newell, I think, is going way too late to the Thunder at 21. This is a big disparity between my big board and where he's going. I have him around 10 on my big board. And if he goes to the Thunder at 21, this is somebody that I think they could consider at 10 that could play with Chet Holmgren in the front court. And they're snagging him at 21. Would be insane value. He should go a lot higher than this. He could be, I think, like an Aaron Gordon type player at the NBA level with his athleticism, his ability to catch lobs. And I think he could develop a three-point shot over time. You're buying low into that ability right now. And at 21 to the Thunder of all teams, I think that's kind of low for Asa Newell. We got the Pacers getting Drake Powell at 22. Kind of shocked to see Powell go ahead of Ian Jackson. I mean, both those UNC wings have not helped their draft stock over the last few weeks, but he's somebody that could be a good 3-and-D piece eventually at the NBA level. I think with the big men on the board still at 22 for the Pacers, and they're going to have some big man questions, I like them either going Thomas Sorber out of Georgetown. I would also like them to go, Aston Newell's off the board, but you could also go Alex Condon out of Florida. At 23, we have Carter Bryant going to the Nets, somebody that has a good size at Arizona right now, where he could be a stretch 4. And I think he has the tools to be this 3-and-D stretch 4, kind of like Rasheer Fleming, who he does not have as a top 23 pick. I think Rasheer Fleming makes more sense than Drake Powell in Indiana. But Carter Bryant, I think, brings upside to Brooklyn at 23. So I like that for them. They go upside in their last 2 picks because he had them going Will Riley at 20, and then Carter Bryant at 23. They have another first-round pick. The Nets are going to have so many first-round picks, at least on paper. We'll see if they make a trade on draft night. But them getting Thomas Sorber out of Georgetown, I think, is a good pick as well. I think he can be one of the best rim protectors in this draft after Kaman Maluach. Definitely a better rim protector than Danny Wolf or Derik Queen or Alex Condon. And I think that's good value for the Nets at 24. If they're going to try to maybe trade Nick Claxton to the Lakers or something like that in the offseason. We got to do Thiero going to the Magic at 25. So we don't really address shooting. Like arguably the worst 3-point shooting team in the league. Well, no, it is the worst three-point shooting team in the league. It's arguably one of the worst three-point shooting teams of the last 10 years. Are not going to add any shooters in this draft. They have 2 first-round picks, and we're getting 2 non-shooters. I don't really agree with that. Thiero is a fun player. He's a smart player. He can run in transition. He's a good defender, but Orlando doesn't need any more good defenders. Jace Richardson from Michigan State is on the board. Alex Karaban is on the board. It shouldn't be this difficult for the Orlando Magic to get a shooter. Alex Condon going to the Hawks here at 26. They get a good big man that can run the floor well. He knows where to be. He's got a good basketball IQ, a good feel for the game, and I think him playing with Trae Young would be great for his development, like any big man would. And I think that's a good pick. I think I'm fine with the Hawks addressing big man with that Lakers pick, or even like it could be with the Kings pick as well, depending on who's on the board, because Capella's a free agent. Okongwu has had his injury concerns in the past, and I don't know if Larry Nance Jr. is a long-term play, so I like them grabbing one there at 26. We have Noah Penda going to the Wizards at 27. A good athlete, can put the ball on the ground, can defend, can dribble a little bit. Definitely a better prospect than what like Pacome Dadiet was last year. And I don't mind the Wizards taking a chance on a lottery ticket there at 27. That could have some upside, that may not. But Boston getting Rasheer Fleming at 28 is a fantastic pick. Oh my God, him in that Celtic system where he's lanky, he can defend multiple positions, he can run the floor, and he can just chuck up the threes in this Joe Mazzulla offense. That's a home run pick. I hope the rest of the league doesn't allow Rasheer Fleming to fall to 28. Alex Karaban going to the Suns at 29. I hate that. I hate that. This team needs defense, and there's so many better defenders on the board, and I'm fine with them. Like Alex Karaban, I think at 29 is probably good value, but they just don't need somebody of that archetype. Like you have Grayson Allen, you can get shooting in a way. I just think like Jace Richardson could make more sense. I think if they wanted to dip into the next like tier of big men because they could use another one on the board. I just don't know if I like Karaban in Phoenix. They have some bigger issues because they can't play a look at defense right now. And Karaban, I don't think is the best defender in the world. And Jason Richardson going to the Clippers at 30. That is a phenomenal value pick for the Clippers. I would love him under Ty Lue's offense. And I think he's closer to Jeremiah Fears than like this mock has him. Like we have Jace Richardson going 30 to the Clippers and Jeremiah Fears is going number 9 to the Spurs. Like I'd rather Jace Richardson at 30 than Fears at 9. So that is great value for the LA Clippers there in the first round. One of the more efficient guard scorers this year at Michigan State. And I think has some really high potential. And I think like over the course of like Big Ten conference play, March Madness, because Michigan State has been great this year, Jace Richardson is going to skyrocket up draft boards. All right, so we have about 29 second round picks that we can quickly go through. We have Ryan Kalkbrenner to the Celtics at 31. That is good value. I mean, the Celtics having that Washington second is great for them. And them getting Rasheer Fleming and Kalkbrenner, who could help them right away, is great. Michael Ruzic, another lottery ticket player that the Hornets are taking a flyer on at 32. Very similar to what they did last year with the 6th pick in T-John Salon. Still don't love that in hindsight. Ian Jackson to Minnesota at 33 is great. Good athlete, can put the ball on the ground, can score, can shoot. That's a great pick. Sergio Delaria, another basically lottery ticket to the Hornets at 34. Seems to be a trend. Maxime Reynaud, I think, is honestly closer to a first-round pick too, because he's probably in that tier of centers. Like, do you have him or Kalkbrenner higher? He's got good court vision for a center. And I think Detroit, that's probably a good fit. They could definitely use some big man depth. Alex Tui trying to get a shooter. Complimentary piece out of Sydney going to the Nets there at 36. So this is an interesting one. Boogie Flan to the Kings at 37. I like that for Sacramento. It's just I don't know if Boogie Flan, like if he's getting intel that he's going to be an early second because he's out for the year right now with a hand injury. I think he just benefits staying another year at Arkansas. Miles Bird from San Diego State to Toronto. So they end up getting Kasparas Shakuchonis and they get Miles Bird, who I think needs to work on his three-point shot a little bit. Chaz Lanier to the Spurs at 39. I like that. He's a 3D prospect. Tyrese Proctor to the Sixers at 40, taking the Duke guard. Hey, it worked out for them in the 24 draft. Janai Broom to the Wizards at 41. I mean, I like Janai Broom around this range. I don't mind Janai Broom as a first-round pick with the energy he brings. I want to see that energy on a good team and a playoff team next year, not on one of the worst teams in the league. I think OKC taking a chance on Dink Pate for what he could be as a wing defender is great value at 42. Darian Williams, I think, is a good pick by Chicago, a wing at 43, but I'd like some guys with some scoring upside. Eric Dixon also has some scoring upside, but older player going to Utah at 44. Cam Jones at 45 is way too low. Like, Cam Jones, I think, should be in the first round to some teams, like, going forward. I like Rasheer Fleming, so I'm not going to say that. But Cam Jones to Phoenix would make a lot of sense. Cam Jones, even to Orlando, makes more sense than a Thiero, I would say, in my opinion. A lot of these teams aren't really great, but like Cam Jones to Indiana, I think would make some sense. Cam Jones to OKC would make some sense. But it's funny because like Utah and Brooklyn dominate. And like, yeah, these first round picks towards the end here going forward. We have Zion James, who I think is a good defender, going to Washington at 46, coming from Duke. We have this center from Germany to the Magic at 47. Not too familiar with him. Joseph Tugler, front court member, going to the Wizards at 48, who have a ton of second rounders. I think the Clippers walking away with Chase Richardson and Nick Clifford. Phenomenal draft. This would be a home run draft, A+ draft for me in my draft grades for the Clippers. Isaiah Evans going to the Cavs at 50, I think could benefit staying another year. Rocco Sikorsky, so another big man going to the Jazz at 51. I think we can cool off on those. Markovic from Serbia going to the Pacers at 52. We have an Italian center to the Grizzlies at 53. Cedric Howard from Washington State, a little bit of an older player going to the Suns at 54. Yaxel Lendenberg, one of the best scoring big men in all of college basketball, not just the American Conference. This would be a great pick for the Lakers. Lakers fans would love him right away. Zvonimir Visic, I mean, I'd rather have the other Visic. Why do you have Zvonimir going ahead of Tomislav? I don't really agree with that, because I would like Tomislav to the Knicks at 56. JT Toppin, good scorer to the Magic at 57, but still not the three-point shooting they need. Kobe Bryant on the board, that would make more sense. He has him going to Cleveland at 58. Malik Lewis from Melbourne, Australia, going to the Rockets at 59. So that's going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy me reacting to ESPN's new 2025 mock draft. Let me know what you guys think about the mock down below. Hit that thumbs up if you did enjoy. Hit that subscribe button as well, because I'm going to be dropping my top 25 players prediction ranking for the 2030 NBA season this weekend. So make sure you're subscribed to find out when that video goes live. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.